Thomas Jefferson climbs the ladder. Oh my goodness! Come
on! What's going on, everybody? Welcome to UFC Fight Night, talking the UFC fight card for July 1st, Strickland versus Magomedov. I'm DC, of course, joined today by the usual crew. We got JSU, we got Red Kachik. Let's throw it over to you, JSU. How you doing on this Friday afternoon?
Yeah, doing good. I mean, this card is going to be an interesting one to break down here. We've got some fighters, a few unknown fighters, some decent fights on this card, and we'll break it down. But pumped to be back with you guys on a nice little Friday afternoon, and hopefully we bring some winners to the show. I thought we brought some winners last week, and I think we should do it again here.
Yeah, I think we've on a good couple-week run here in the UFC. I think there's like a UFC card like every week for the next 3 months or something. So, yeah, you'll see a lot of us certainly on the show. Drew, how you doing on this Friday?
Yeah, doing good. Thanks for having me again, and looking forward to breaking down this slate. It's a little interesting. A lot of close fights. So, yeah, I think as we talked about last week, I'll bring some ownership so we can talk about it. But interesting card. A lot of close fights.
Yes.
Binair, I think you changed my name a little bit here. I don't think I got the Magomedov in the last name here. If I did, though, I probably would be the best MMA DFS player in the world. I sadly do not have that. So I will say, though, my man Arman Tsarukyan, my Armenian brother Arman Tsarukyan, he looks pretty good. Just throwing that one out there. It looks pretty damn good.
Yeah, certainly a fun card last week. And I think this one's going to be fun, too. Not the biggest names on this card overall, but we got some UFC debuts. We got a couple huge favorites. And then other than that, mostly fairly closely lined fights. So should be a fun card to talk about. 12 fights. Weigh-in results kind of coming in, just this afternoon. So I think everybody is going to make it. We should get all 12 fights on this card. Let's break it down, starting with, of course, the first fight of the night, Alexander Romanov and Blagoy Ivanov. This one, Romanov sitting -140. We kick it off with the big boys, heavyweight division. Romanov, you pointed out the picture to me, JSU, and especially a big boy. He must have weighed in, right at the limit, 265 there, I'm guessing. But we do start, in the heavyweight division. I think this one, pretty interesting. We've seen some big scores out of Romanov when he does win. KOs, subs, he's a guy who can get the finish. And then Ivanov, he's had, 7 straight decisions in the UFC, which is bizarre, obviously, especially for a heavyweight. This one is favored, though, to finish inside the distance. What do you have here, kicking us off with the two heavyweights?
Yeah, I mean, Ivanov, there's a reason why a lot of decisions with him. He's a grinder, man. He's tough. He's durable, but he wants to push you up against that cage. He wants to grab you, clinch, keep you up there, and try and control you. Not a lot of volume from someone like Ivanov, even though, it's annoying. That Tybura fight, even the commentators were saying, in the beginning, he just wouldn't throw. He just was, waiting and waiting and waiting. And that's what drives you nuts from a DFS standpoint with guys like him, because sometimes they just don't let their hands go. When he let his hands go against Tybura, though, I thought he looked pretty decent. He was quick for someone like his size. And again, when you have a chin like his and you're durable and you're going up someone like Alexander Romanov, you those are things that are huge, because if you can withstand Romanov's round one surge, which that's what he does. Same thing. He faced Tybura, I think it was 2 fights ago.
Yep.
And it was just round one, he owned Tybura. I mean, he was picking this dude up. 260 pounds, and he's picking him up in the air, feet, hands, everything. They're flailing and just dropping him on his face. He did it twice in round one, and he controlled them the entire time, just either punching him in his face while he was holding one arm or just on top of him. That was it, though. His trainers at the end of that first round was rubbing his arms out. They had his arms were on both of his coaches and stuff, and you could see them like rubbing his biceps out. You knew right there he was gassed, he was dead, and that was it. He was the one that was gassed, and it ended up losing him the fight in the end. I could see something similar here where Ivanov takes that surge, he withstands it because he's tough, he's really hard to put away, and then in the second and third round, he starts to kind of let it go a little bit, and he gets a boring decision win here. So I think if you think someone finishes this fight early, though, you have to be on Romanov for DFS, which would be good. That's what you need, a first-round finish or a lot of takedowns. I just don't think he has the cardio capability of taking this dude down consistently for 3 rounds. I mean, Ivanov has a 70% takedown defense. He's not a slouch. This is going to be a tough fight. I think if it gets out of round 1, I'm going more towards the Ivanov side, and I think it's a decision win for him. I think he can find a way to grind out a decision over the favorite Alexander Romanov here. So I'm leaning that way for DFS. Again, I don't see a ton of upside in that decision win. Romanov definitely has more if he gets him out in round 1, because I think that's the only way he wins personally.
Yeah, that all makes sense. I guess I'll go slightly different take. I think Romanov is going to get the job done here. You look at Ivanov, and yeah, he hasn't been finished, all these decisions. He also hasn't really faced many wrestlers, right? One, there's not really many wrestlers in the heavyweight division anyway. So no one's really tried to do to him what I think Romanov is going to try to do. I think he's the bigger guy. He's a younger guy. I think he, just looking at the size of Romanov, we kind of know what his plan is, right? He's going to try to get this done in the first round. So I hear what you're saying. I do think Romanov is going to get a sub. I think he's going to take him down, wrestle him, and he's just so huge that I think he can probably finish the job. But I do agree with you. If he doesn't get the job done early, could go back to Ivanov's favor. Maybe a live betting opportunity, frankly, after the first round. Romanov maybe dominates, but can't get the finish. Maybe you could jump on Ivanov at a good number there. Let's throw over to you, Drew. What do you see here between these two heavyweights?
Yeah, I like the call on the live number going into round 2. If Romanov doesn't get a round 1 finish, I'll talk about ownership here in a second. But yeah, I'm kind of on DC's side. Like it does seem like a submission is the route, and it would be in round 1. He would just come out super aggressive and get the round 1 submission. And obviously at 8,300, that's looking pretty good. Now, from a ownership perspective, this is where it gets kind of interesting. I got Romanov around 30%, which is basically the highest owned outside of Brito and Strickland, I think, or Ferreira, actually. So I think Ivanov is like a really interesting, if it does go JSU's route as far as a decision win at 7,900, let's just assume there's only one other good dog that has a good upside for GPPs. Ivanov would be like a really interesting play. I got him at 13%. So between those two, just from a inside the distance and a money line number, Ivanov actually has a pretty good amount of leverage. There's only one other fighter down here below 8K that has as good a number as far as leverage against ownership. So I think Ivanov, if you want to take JSU's approach, it sounds really interesting. Even in a decision, let's assume if he does win a decision, he gets some takedowns as well. So I think Ivanov would be a fun GPP play. I still think Romanov wins, but like I said, 30% owned, you would probably just match the field, and hopefully he gets the round 1 win. I don't see myself going overweight, but Ivanov at 13%, I'm pretty comfortable going to 20%, at least overweight.
Yeah, I might put in a few bets on this one. Romanov to win in the first round and Ivanov to win a decision, I think would be the way that I would lean, and I do like the numbers for both of those. Let's move on to the next fight, though. We go to the women's division. Ivana Petrovic going to make her UFC debut here, 8-0 as a pro, but her first fight in the UFC. She is a moderately big favorite here, especially for a woman making her debut, minus 220 or so against Luana Carolina, who is a UFC veteran. I think we kind of know what to expect from Carolina JSU. It's frankly not a super impressive resume. Even her wins are relatively low scoring. There's no wrestling involved and not even that much volume for, sometimes you see the woman fighters throw a lot of punches, right? Because they don't have to be as scared about getting knocked out, and they kind of try to volume their way. She doesn't even really do that. So I'll start off and say I don't really have much interest and Carolina in DFS. Petrovic, I think, is somewhat interesting, though. I did watch a little bit of her tape. I was kind of impressed by what I saw. She kind of seems like a badass to me. So I'm excited to see her debut here. And, I'm on the Petrovic side. What do you see, JC, between Petrovic and Carolina?
Yeah, I mean, Carolina, Petrovic, she's not really proven. She's a prospect, though, right? There's the kind of hype behind it, coming in here, making her UFC debut. And, she's pretty much like a grappler, right? Wrestler, works the cage, gets you down to the ground. That's what she wants to do. She's not really a striker, or not yet anyway. She's kind of hittable. But Carolina, like you said, even though I guess you'd put her as a striker, she doesn't really throw like a ton of volume. She's not really like super dangerous.
She's just like your run-of-the-mill average UFC.
Yeah. and if I'll tell you right now, the key with her is she does have decent takedown defense. I mean, 70+% takedown defense, like that's pretty good. Even that loopy fight, no one thought she could stuff the takedowns. She did stuff a lot of takedowns. I think she has paths to winning almost like a boring decision as well, where she stuffs the takedowns early. Petrovic, you can hit her. She is hittable when you get her standing. And I think that's where, she has a path to victory, and she is, 7,300. So this is a fight, though, for DFS. I kind of don't want to be that invested in, because I feel like the dog has a chance of making this a really boring decision and not really scoring well either, even in a win if she does win. Petrovic, it's kind of like the other fight that we just broke down. Petrovic has more upside if she can get the takedowns, kind of like Romanov. If he gets the takedown, round one win. I don't know if she wins round one, but if she gets a bunch of takedowns or control time, that could rack up scoring-wise for DFS. So I think in DFS, if I was to be over on one fighter, it'd probably be Petrovic. But I'm leaning the side that Carolina gets the win in a boring decision, and she stuffs those takedowns in her going up against this girl unproven and her first UFC match. So that's the side I'm leaning, and I don't really like this fight for DFS. I'm going to be under on this fight, even though I doubt it's at least Carolina is that high owned, but we'll find out in a sec from Drew.
Yeah. If Carolina does win, it is going to be almost certainly, I think, a boring decision where, just like you described, where she stuffed the takedowns. I think it's Petrovic, Drew, that has the DFS upside here. I think she's going to try to get takedowns. And nice thing about the women wrestler, especially against a fighter like Carolina who doesn't really have any power, you don't have to be as afraid, right, going in for those takedowns. You can kind of just spam them over and over again because you can take a punch on the way in. So, a little different takes from me and GSU. Where do you sit on this one, Drew?
Yeah, it's like thinking about the range. So like at 9K, Morales down to 8,700 Gato. Like all these fighters basically have the same odds, like for every single fight. It's about the same money line number, give or take, and about the same inside the distance number. So like really ownership is going to be something I would look at. And Petrovic's going to be the lowest owned of those four. So I think Petrovic has some upside if she does finish. Like Vegas gives her plenty of respect to finish inside the distance 33% of the time here, about 20% inside of round one, 30% inside of round two. So they're really thinking round two or better for Petrovic, which is pretty nice. The flip side for Carolina. So again, Petrovic, I have about 23% owned. I got Carolina at 17.5% owned. So I think Carolina is going to be fairly high owned actually for one of the dogs that I don't think has a lot of upside. There's some other dogs down here. Like honestly, the dogs are kind of ugly. Like you're going to kind of pick your spots, but I think Carolina is going to be one of the higher owned with the lowest upside. Like compared to the upside, she's going to be one of the highest owned dogs. So yeah, I don't really have any interest in Carolina. It would be Petrovic, and it would basically be I got her matching the field. So I would match the field on Petrovic, and I would be well under on Carolina, which would for me would probably just be a fade. I got her at like cap it at 10% Carolina for 150, and to me, I would probably just exclude her in 20 max or fewer.
Yeah, Petrovic and her record, obviously it's not UFC, it's a lower level of competition, but mostly finishes, ground and pound, and rear naked chokes is what she's had. So yeah, I think if it goes her way, she is going to be on top and control this fight, and that's her path to victory, and that could conceivably score well. So I do like Petrovic a little bit here. Let's go to the next fight on the card, though. Elvis. DK has it listed as Elvis Oliveira. I think his name is Elvis Brenner. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, Brenner, I thought, right?
Yeah, but for whatever reason, he's listed Oliveira.
Even I pulled the CSV, and like even in the middle it says like fighter versus fighter, and it says Brenner versus who's he fighting? Kudaladze. So like they don't even know what name they're using.
Who should we refer to him as for this show? Probably Oliveira, right? Because that's what he's listed on DK. We'll call him Elvis. We'll call him Elvis.
I'm definitely going to call him Brenner, though. I can tell you that right now.
Right.
I'm totally going to call him Brenner, but I get it. Yeah, that's fine.
All right. So we got Elvis and Guram Kutaladze, who is making his first fight, I think, in a while. Oh, no, he fought in 2022, but hasn't won in the UFC since 2020, which I kind of found it odd that he's a minus 700 favorite here. JSU kind of shitting on old Elvis a little bit with that line. So interested to hear you say where it goes. We do have one other really big favorite to talk about coming up, and kind of hard to fit both that other one and Kutaladze in the same lineup. So kind of an interesting strategy discussion here. Break it down for us, Elvis and Guram.
Yeah, I mean, Guram's good, man. He's got some he's a really good striker. He's got great kicks, awesome takedown defense, which is going to be huge in this matchup against Brenner or Oliveira, whatever you want to call him, because he's a grappler and he wants to get this to the ground. He's not a great striker or anything like that. So you've got, opposite ends here where one guy has great takedown defense. He wants to keep it on the feet because he has a big advantage on the feet. And you got Brenner who wants to get this to the ground. I think the takedown defense for Guram is good enough, though, for sure here. He's defended 17 takedowns here in the UFC. I just feel like that's something where I think he just stuffs him, and then I think he forces him to fight his fight. And if that's the case, I think it's Guram all day. The one thing with Guram, though, is not really like a finisher. He's not like that one punch, like you're out type guy.
Yeah.
So he can volume him up. But at that price tag where he's at 9,400, where I think this fight ends in a decision. Now, it could be a decision where Guram beats the crap out of him for 15 minutes. Like that definitely could happen here, especially if it goes the way I'm thinking, where he does stuff the takedowns or stops the grappling and stuff like that, slows it down. But I just feel like Guram's overall better, and I think he's going to make him fight the fight where he's standing. So I think it's Guram by decision. For DFS, though, I'm going to be underweight on 9,400 Guram just because I do think for that price tag, you want to finish and you want an early finish, right? And I just don't see it. And then if that's the case, you want someone who's going to be high volume takedowns or a ton of significant strikes. I don't know if that happens either, but I think he does win, and I think it is convincing, in a decision.
Potentially kind of a comfortable decision win for Kutaladze here, I think, with technical striking, but maybe somewhat cautious because he is going to be worried, I think, about the takedowns of Elvis. Yep. But I do like, you said the really good takedown defense of Guram, and I'm not that familiar, frankly, with Elvis's game, but typically the Brazilians that kind of rely on the ground game, they oftentimes don't have the wrestling, right, that you see from guys that come up through the United States wrestling, or obviously, Eastern Europe, whatever, Russia. So yeah, I think Guram's got a good chance to keep this on the feet and kind of take control of the fight. Like you said, in a cruise to a decision win, I could easily see that 30-27 type thing. Drew, let's throw it over to you. What do you see for ownership here? I'm hoping people are jumping on the Guram train.
Yeah, not as much as we would hope. I got Guram about 25% owned and Elvis at 10%.
Still 25% dead.
Yeah,
and
that's fine. So I'm basically on the same. I'm on the same plane as you guys. So like I think, which we'll talk about in a second, the upside for Guram at his price with someone just above him with incredibly more upside. It's really hard for me to get to Guram. That being said, 25%. If you want to match the field there, I'm fine with that. But for me, I'm going to go way overweight on the fighter above him, which we'll talk about in a second. And then for Elvis, Brenner, or Oliveira, I got him at 10%, and I would be I would fade it. It would be underweight the field, but I would probably just X them out. I'm pretty comfortable with that. So yeah, I mean, Vegas does think Guram could finish inside the distance. It's about a 50-50, I guess. But I think for the amount of money you have to spend at 9,400 and at 25% owned, there's a better option to take a stand on. But that being said, 25% and 150 match the field. If something weird happens, it's not the end of the world. But yeah, it's there's a better fighter.
For sure. Sounds like the chat's with us. Matty Ice, 25% is wild. Cody with fights the easiest fade on the card. Yeah, if you want 62 points, Matty Ice says play Guram. I think we're all somewhat.
Some people just can't help themselves. They have to play everyone. So we'll take it. We'll take this.
You see minus 700, right? And if you don't dig in any further than that, it's easy to click on that.
The thing is, though, there's a lot of big favorites on this card. So like you know what I mean? That's the key with this is there's a lot of big favorites. You can easily take stands and, you still get some big favorites that you like. This is clearly, though, to me, it's got to be the worst big favorite for DFS. So I'm talking DFS. I'm not talking about winning, because I do think he wins, and I do think it's convincing, honestly, if we're just talking winners. But, that's not what we're talking. We're talking about upside for DFS, and I just don't see it.
Yeah, 100% agree. We'll go to the next fight on the card, back to the women's division. Carol Rosa sitting around minus 175 over Yana Santos. This fight, pretty big favorite to go the distance. Yeah, minus 270 to go to decision. But I still kind of like Rosa here a little bit for DFS JSU. In her wins in the UFC, last 4 wins, she scored 105, 89, 109, 110, 112. If you go her last 5 wins, a lot of wrestling, a lot of control time, volume, kind of ground and pound type control on the ground. So I think even in a decision win, Carol Rosa might be able to get the job done for us against Santos, who does appear to be mostly a striker and, not that great of a fighter, to be honest. So I kind of like Rosa as a favorite here to win by decision and to rack up the DK points while doing so. Your thoughts here, Rosa at Santos?
Yeah, I'm with you for this fight. I'm not a big fan of Santos. Santos and Rosa, when you look at the stats, Santos throws about 4 significant strikes per minute, Rosa 6. But Rosa's is a little more that was earlier in his career when she was a lot more volume, and it actually recently has been less volume from a striking standpoint, which is kind of interesting. But I agree with you, DC. I think she brings in the takedowns, the wrestling, gets this to the ground here, because Santos, even though she can offensive wrestle, she has some offensive wrestle. Yeah. Her takedown defense is really bad, like around 45%. Holly Holm, I think, took her down about 4 times. So to me, I just think Rosa is the all-around better fighter. I think she's even the better striker, honestly. So I think either way it goes, I lean Rosa. And for that, I'm going with Rosa here as the pick. And, I don't know if I think this fight ends in a decision too. I feel like I said decision so many times, but I do feel like early in this card, there's going to be a lot of decision wins here. And I think Rosa gets the decision. I think she can control her. I think once she gets her down, I do think she can control her. And, that is where this is the massive advantage that we want for Rosa, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm on the Rosa train here. What does ownership say, Drew, and who do you got in this fight?
Yeah, you're not gonna like the ownership. Yeah, I hate this fight. So Rosa, I got her at 31% and Santos at 25%. So going to a decision, Vegas doesn't really think she's gonna do much on the ground. So it doesn't mean she's not gonna have takedowns. Just the submission number is a lot lower than her KO number. So it sounds like they think there'll be a lot of standing around and a little bit of punching here and there. But yeah, 30%
Rosa sitting on top of her, raining down punches for 3 rounds.
She could just get a takedown and then just control it for the rest. But
yeah, she literally could just lay on her for
it's possible
control time. But
yeah, so it's just a high owned fight, and in that range of that high 8s, I don't know. There's definitely some other fighters that I like quite a bit that can finish. Again, that's just the tough part with takedowns and control time. It's hard to kind of quantify if that's 1 minute versus 3 minutes. It can make a huge difference. So I'll be underweight on this fight. I guess you guys have kind of talked me into a little bit of Rosa, but again, at 30%, it's tough for me to go overweight that. So No Santos. She grades out pretty terrible. Yeah, pretty. It's just a high owned fight. It's just I think it's like one of those fights that's in the right price range where a lot of lineups fall into. Rosa does project well, so that's probably part of it. But for me, it's not something I would force in there. I would be much more comfortable going somewhere else with $8,600.
So you're going to see your lineups evaporating when Rosa's sitting on top of this girl.
It's possible, yeah. It's possible.
I never worry that much about the females with my lineups. Not going to lie. I'm fine with fading females whenever I get the chance. But if I do see upside, it's normally when you get the females who can get it to the ground and control for long periods of time, which I do think it is possible here. I get what you're saying, though, Drew. Like that range, that's a range where there's certain guys we'll talk about that you could see finishes, or big boy scores. And, I don't know if the upside, I don't know if Rosa has that upside for some of these.
There's even another women's fight right above her that is kind of interesting. It looks like it can definitely end in a submission and at least have more control time. So again, it's kind of going off what Vegas sees and it doesn't love it versus some of the other fighters right around her. So again, it's kind of reflective of the fighters in that price range, I guess.
Speaking of big boy scores, we should get one in the next fight. Joe Anderson, Brito minus 1,400 over Mr. Wilson here. Weston Wilson making his UFC debut. Brito, obviously a big prospect, has finished both of his last two fights in the first round. Massive favorite to do so here as well. This fight, doesn't go to decision is minus 700 and minus 1,400 overall. So about as good of play I think as you can get in DFS JSU. To me, kind of a free square here with Brito. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean it's tough when you see a guy like Wilson. It just feels like they're feeding Brito Wilson here. Here we go. It's tough. The guy's making short.
That sucks so bad to see you're plus 1,400 to win. Just expecting.
You think that motivates them? Like, do you think that motivates the underdogs, or does it demoralize them? What do you think? Like, do you think they're like, "Fuck them, I'm still going to win"?
It just depends on the fighter. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure there are some that probably get demoralized by it. That's got to be tough. But yeah, I mean Wilson, short notice UFC debut. He's a striker. He's hittable, though. He keeps his hands low. And someone like Brito, who is he is super athletic. He can grapple. He can strike. He's got power.
He's going to maul this guy.
Takedowns. And he doesn't wait either, DC. He's going to see this guy, and it's going to be like he's going to go right after him. He's looking to finish you. He wants to finish you. And I think that's what happens. I think we do. I know that's what everyone thinks, but I do think we see an early finish here from Brito. I mean, Wilson, I've seen he keeps his hands low at certain points. Right when Brito sees that, he's just going right after him, and it's going to be lights out. So, yeah, I think it's Brito inside the distance here. I think he finishes this dude in round one. And like DC said, might just be a free square, honestly. Because if not, I still think he could control him, take him down. If he doesn't finish him in round one, right? DC, there's paths, even if he didn't finish, but I do see this as a finish fight.
I'm betting Brito in round one minus 220. I think it's a good bet. I think he gets the job done early here. What are your thoughts here, Drew?
Yeah, this was the fight I was talking about. Brito, I think you're right. It's a free square, or at least you got to jam him as much as you can. It's interesting from a money line perspective, Brito and Guram, from a minus 1,400 and minus 650. It's only a 5% implied odds difference for them to win the fight. But Brito is at 85% to win inside of round two and 70% to win inside of round one. As far as ownership, I got him at 41%, which is insanely low. We've seen 5 rounders that arguably are probably going to be just slow, and they've been 50% or higher owned. So Brito at 40%, I would almost probably 1.5x the field. You could probably lock him in and feel pretty comfortable. No Wilson. I got him at 5%. So theoretically, you could say his money line number, there's some leverage there, but I'm not going to chase it. I think Brito's the guy. You throw him into as many lineups as you can make, and he's the best. He's the best play on the slate, obviously.
Yeah, no question about it. He'll be on all my lineups. We'll move on to the next fight on the card. Fakhretdinov and Kevin Lee two very different names there. It is Fakhretdinov, who is the big favorite, minus 200 or so. What do you see here, JSU?
Yeah, Kevin Lee. So he hasn't fought in the UFC in like a year or something, a little over a year. I forget what it is, but he can fight. You know what I mean? Like he's definitely got talent. He's got some solid wins here. But the thing with Kevin Lee has always been fight IQ and the durability concerns. And I think when you got someone like Fakhretdinov, who is he's a wrestler, man. I mean, he can stand and hit with you, but he's a wrestler and he's nonstop with the pressure here. I mean, he hasn't fight the competition, I don't think, in the UFC yet that Kevin Lee has, but like Brian Battle, he just absolutely destroyed him. I mean, took him down like 7 times, had 14 minutes of control time, and he works the entire time. It's not like he just gets you and just lays on you. No, he's working, man. He is constantly on you. And I think someone like Kevin Lee, who we've seen have durability issues at certain points, a nonstop wrestler who's going to push a pace on you and just keep working the entire time, well, that's definitely trouble, I think, for someone like Lee. And Lee has, he can grapple and wrestle in his own right. So I think in round 1, this is a very fun, competitive. But I think as we get into round 2, round 3, it's just going to wear on Lee. And I think Renat just absolutely wears on him to the point where he starts, getting him to where he wants and getting him down and then just working him from the ground. So for me, it's Fakhretdinov all day. I think at 8,800 with his upside, with all the takedowns, control time. And listen, Kevin Lee's a dog man. He's going to get up too. Like, he's not just going to accept being on the ground. So that's even better for DFS because we want our guys to get back up. Then we can take them back down. So, like, for me, knowing that, I think Fakhretdinov could have 3-4 takedowns in the first round just because Kevin Lee's going to be Lee's going to be fresh. He's going to be able to get up, I think, especially in round 1. And I think Fakhretdinov can get him back down. I think that's where the big score is here. So I'm going Fakhretdinov by decision and a nice win here.
Yeah, I'm on board. I think this could be a card where we see some wrestling come through with some big scores. If this fight goes the way Fakhretdinov wants it to go, he's putting up a big score, right? Wrestling, ground and pound, all that stuff that scores super well in DFS. I kind of see this fight a little bit similar to the Carol Rosa fight, and I do like these fighters kind of in this upper 8K range. Drew, your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I like Renat quite a bit. I got these fighters actually pretty close in ownership. I got Renat at 29%, and I got Kevin Lee at 23%. So pretty close. And obviously Renat has a much stronger inside the distance number. Looks like he's going to have takedowns, submission potential, etc. So Renat grades out really well, considering the ownership. And honestly, there's, like we just talked about Rosa, and this was one of those fighters where, like, considering the price, only $200 more, the Vegas gives him a lot more respect for having the submission. So again, I just kind of read that as more control time potentially. maybe there's a submission in there and there's less control time at the end of the fight. But yeah, I like Renat quite a bit. I won't have any Kevin Lee. Renat all the way, 33% inside the distance. And yeah, I think he's going to do some work and only 30% owned. I like that number quite a bit.
Yeah, me too. All three of us in on the Fakhretdinov train here. We'll keep it moving to the next fight on the card. Bruno Ferreira, decent size favorite, minus 230 or so over Nursultan Roosevelt. JSU, back to you for this one. Ferreira, Roosevelt, what do you see?
Yeah, also before I break down this fight, I just want to remind people we do have a promo going right now. Third 33 gets you 33% off your first monthly or weekly and put you into a contest where we're picking a winner, one winner to win $1,000. And then we'll also pick 10 winners for swag giveaways. So again, the code is THIRD33, so 3RD33, and it will get you 33% off your monthly or weekly and put you into a contest where we're going to be picking a winner for $1,000 and 10 different swag giveaways. So anyone who uses that code,
doing my work for me, Jesse. I always do it between the undercard and the main card. Come on,
I just didn't want to forget. I just didn't want to forget our boy Third and Slong's code. I wanted to make sure we got the Third and Slong code out there for the people. So my bad. I didn't want to steal your thunder, DC. I just wanted to make sure we didn't forget it. So what are we on, the Roosevelt fight?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So Roosevelt, this dude, 32 finishes. I think he has like 20 something in the first round. These guys are both. I think this is a fun fight. I think this is a DFS fight too, where I think there's a finish. I don't know how the fight goes as we get into the later round 2, round 3. I don't think it gets there. I think this fight finishes in round 1 or the beginning of round 2. Both these guys are coming in wanting to finish each other. And Roosevelt, he's a wrestler, grappler. He gets you down. I even saw one of his fights where he was on the ground on his back and then somehow got on top and then picked the dude up from the ground, slammed him down, and he just hit his head the right way, and he was out. Didn't even hit him after that, just slammed him to the ground, and dude was just knocked out cold, and the fight was over. So, like, these guys, this dude is going to finish. He's a very live dog, in my opinion. He's got good BJJ. Control, not the best, but that's because he's working, so you can get up, but he can get you back down, right? So that's fine from a DFS scoring perspective. And he's comfortable on his back, too. He'll throw up submissions. He'll do stuff from his back. So even if he does get taken down, he doesn't accept it, right? He's still working. Kimura's from off his back. He'll throw up different things to still try and, be a threat. So either way, this guy's a good fighter, you know what I mean? And Bruno, we saw Bruno last time out against Rodriguez, who, Bruno just came in, and Rodriguez is a good fighter. Bruno just dropped him, man. He was backing him up. Rodriguez backing him up against the cage. All of a sudden, that left hook, Rodriguez's hands were dropped, and that 1 second where his hands were down, and Bruno just caught him, and he was out. This dude has big power, right? Big power, and he's going to come forward. He's going to throw bombs. Everything he does is with power. I don't think he's he's not going to be a dude who's going to throw a crap ton. He's looking for his shots, his bomb shots. He throws hard kicks. He even dropped Rodriguez with a kick where he just caught him and he fell. Low kick too, which, that just tells you the dude is throwing everything he does, whether it's a low kick, punches, with everything he has. So someone like him, I do worry about as the round goes on, as the fight goes on, how that durability looks. But that's why I think this fight finishes early. I think for DFS, we're going to get a nice big score, and I'm gonna lean that Roosevelt gets this finish here inside the distance. But this is a fight for DFS. I think you want to have exposure to both sides, here, because both of them, where they're priced, if it's an early finish, like I think it could be at those price tags, you're going to want that winner probably on your DFS lineup. So, yeah, give me, I'll take Roosevelt, as the live dog in the finish here. But Bruno is no slouch. These guys one of them's getting finished, I think.
Yeah, I expect fireworks in this fight. And Roosevelt, this is the type of guy you want to bet on the money line, right? In a highly variance fight that's going to be perhaps finished in the first round, 2 explosive fighters. Plus 190 you can get over at Caesars on Roosevelt. I think I'm pretty interested in that. Drew, I assume both these fighters will be heavily owned. I think rightfully so. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, actually, I think Ferreira is going to be certainly high owned. I think Roosevelt is going to be sub 20%. So I got him at 12%, and I'll rerun this tonight and maybe tomorrow morning before I post all the cores and stuff. But there's a big discrepancy between ownerships right now between even Ferreira, I got him as low as 35% on some and up to 55% on some. And then Roosevelt down at 3% up to 20%. So with that being said, this is a great fight for DFS. I am in lockstep pretty much with JSU. I think I want both sides of this. I won't go so far as to say Roosevelt's going to win in a decision. It definitely looks like Ferreira's got the power to get a KO potentially in round 1. But if it does keep going, Roosevelt, if we'll just call it 15%, I'll just kind of use something in the middle. Man, I want a lot of Roosevelt at 15%. But I think Ferreira being the highest, possibly the highest owned on the slate at his price, I think 50% is really comfortable. I think 50 to 60% in at the price, 8,400 is a great filler. Obviously has the upsides, a smash. And then, like I said, Roosevelt is not someone I would fade. If he does come in sub 20, man, that's there's definitely a path. He's got about a 25% chance to finish inside round 2. So like it's such a big number for Ferreira in round 1. But Roosevelt, the more I'm looking at it, I really do like the Roosevelt side for DFS. It's about $600 difference in price. So you will get significant leverage, obviously, off of 50% owned Ferreira and 20% owned Roosevelt.
It's kind of like the fight we had last week, the Mariscal versus Trevor Peak. That fight where one dude was like, it was a great fight to target for DFS. Everyone was on it, but one dude comes in at, what was he, 50% peak, and the other dude was like 19 or 20. Mm-hmm. It was just massive leverage for a fight that we all knew was going to be a banger, and someone was getting dropped.
It's essentially the same thing, even including the ownership, right?
Kind of, right?
Yeah,
that's what I think anyway.
Because the money lines don't always match up. Like there's always more to it that you can kind of read between the lines. Like I said, like he's got about a third shot of finishing inside round 2. Like there's still upside there, even though the money line looks like he's only at like 30% implied odds. So like it's a really good fight to target, obviously.
Yeah, no question. 3 of us will be pulling for Mr. Roosevelt in this one. Yeah. Hopefully he can pull up the upset and vault our teams up the standings. Let's go to another good fight, another one favored to finish inside the distance. It is the first fight of the main card. Ismail Bonfim is minus 320 over St. Denis here, who has some pretty good finishes. The last 2 fights has put up big scores of his own right. So this is another fight that I think we could see fireworks early JSU, and another one that could potentially score pretty well for DFS. And like I was saying, I think we've got some fun fights on this card. I know it's not the biggest names in the world, but this is another one where I think we could see an exciting fight. Your thoughts here on St. Denis and Bonfim?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think this is an exciting fight too. I think both fighters are really good. Bonfim is definitely legit too. Dude's wild striker. He's going to throw bombs. He'll move forward. He's got great boxing, high-level BJJ, and he mixes in like flying knees. He's got great defense. He absolutely pieced up, what was it, Terrence McKinney last fight, like destroyed him. St. Denis, though, he is more of like a wrestler. He can be hittable on the feet, but like dude's wrestler, grappler. He's tough as shit. And I think the key is going to be if Bonfim can kind of keep this thing standing. I think St. Denis will throw with him. I think he will like accept almost like getting into a firefight with him because he is tough as shit. He and I think that's almost to the detriment if that happens, where he keeps it standing and then kind of makes him fight the fight he wants. And I think that is definitely, what Bonfim wants. And I think that's what happens. And if it does, I have to just lean him. Again, though, St. Denis is tough. I don't know. Honestly, I think this thing finishes, but both dudes are really tough. And I wouldn't be shocked if this thing went to the cards here and there was a decision because of how tough both dudes are. But I'm picking Bonfim. I think, I'll pick dogs when I feel like at least there's that path where they can get there. I just think Bonfim is going to be better where this fight goes and, accept him fighting the fight he wants, which is what I see happening here.
Yeah, that all makes sense. It is, just a moderate favorite to go the distance, so minus 150 or so. I'll start to you, Drew. I know Bonfim's a pretty big favorite here. I still think St. Denis is live at least to win this fight. Probably scores decently well if he does. So this is another one. I'll have some exposure to both these guys. Your thoughts here on St. Denis and Bonfim, Drew?
Yeah, the ownerships here look a little bit more realistic. They're a lot closer. So I got Bonfim at 28% and St. Denis at 22%. So with that being said, Bonfim is a pretty good leverage spot. And I just kind of tinkered with a lineup. Like you can still start, a lineup with Brito and Bonfim and play someone in the AKs and you're only left like 7,600. So it's not like the worst thing to jam 2 of these, Brito with another 9K fighter. I'd really personally, I don't love St. Denis at 23%. It looks like it's I mean, even if he comes in a little bit lower than that, I'm not sure I would buy into it at 7K. But Bonfim, I think, is totally fine. I would be overweight the field with 27 or 28% ownership, but I'm a little bit different there. I just don't see a ton of. Again, it's not the upside. Like even the money line number is pretty terrible at 7K. So it would really have to be a pretty high scoring fight, I think, at 30% or 22%. I struggle to get there.
Yeah, I'll be surprised if St. Denis is that high owned in the end as a big underdog and not even super cheap. But yeah, that all makes sense if he does come in that high owned for the fade. Certainly makes sense to me. Next fight, last women's fight on the card, we have Gato here. Melissa Gato sitting at minus 225 over Ariane Lipsky. Yeah, Drew, sounds like you were kind of interested in this fight. We'll change it up. We'll go to you first. What do you see here, Lipsky and Gato?
Yeah, I got Gato at 30% and Lipsky at 14%. So pretty good discrepancy there. But like Gato has really strong inside the distance numbers. And at 8,700, like I said, I just see her having a path. There's certainly a path to a KO, but the submission number is really impressive. She's got about a 21% chance of submitting inside round 2. So round 1 or round 2. 8,700 for her, 30% owned. I think she's a great spot at 8,700. She's probably going to be, certainly for a female fight, it'd be one of my favorite to target. At 8,700, I'm still comfortable playing that. Lipsky, 14%. She doesn't grade out terrible, but I just don't see a lot to gain at 7,500 for her. So yeah, I'll keep it easy. I got 30% for Gato, and I would match the field with that and feel pretty comfortable with the 8K range playing her in there.
Yeah, makes sense. Gato's been pretty impressive. Is coming off a loss in her last fight. JSU, what do you see between Gato and Lipsky?
Yeah, real quick, Brandon, just hit up info at Rumpier Sports. We can definitely, help you out with whatever you messed up, and just let them know what you bought. Let them know your email, or they'll have your email, but let them know what you bought and what you want, and they'll be able to fix it or whatever you need. So that can easily be done. And if you have any issues, just hit me up either on Twitter. I'm at JSURAB on Twitter, so you can easily just shoot a message and if anything's working, or shoot Rumpier Sports a message on Twitter too. Either way, but drop the email in the chat for you. So yeah, any issues with subscription, just let us know. We'll get it fixed. But going to this fight, Lipsky, she's a striker. She has some offensive grappling, but does struggle, though, if she gets taken down. Once she gets on her back, she does struggle here. And I think that's where Gato can get her. Gato is mainly a grappler, and she is good also off her back. So if Gato did get put on her back, she's okay there. She'll throw up, arm bars and, do stuff. So she'll still be somewhat dangerous off her back. And I think the big thing here is that fight against Tracy Cortez where Gato lost, she got out wrestled. But I don't see that happening against someone like Lipsky. Yeah. Lipsky's not going to out wrestle her. That was the big issue though in that last fight that DC brought up where Gato lost, was she just got out wrestled. That's what happened. But I don't see Lipsky being able to do that. So for me, I see Gato here getting the win. For DFS, I mean, could she, finish this? I do think she could. If I had to pick one women's fight where I do think they could finish, I think this would be the one I'd like the most to finish here inside the distance. And that's where I'll go, Gato to finish inside the distance. But definitely also 8,700. The more I look at it, I probably like her the most of any of the women's fighters. Like Drew said, a little bit more than Rosa. But yeah, for DFS, I'll be on her. Not much on Lipsky, though, for sure.
Yeah, Gato the pick here, 3 of 3 on Gato. Let's get to the next fight on the card. It is Marvin Morales, decent favorite, minus 250 here over Max Griffin. Morales, another kind of explosive athlete. Feels like we got a few of those on this card. Won his last 2 fights by knockout, one in the first round, one in the third. Scored pretty well in both. What do you see here, JSU Morales and Max Griffin?
Yeah, Max Griffin. I mean, he's a powerful striker. He has some nice knockouts on his resume. He took on Tim Means. He hurt his hand, though. He started wrestling, took him down 3 times. Like, he can grapple, averages 2 takedowns per fight. He's durable, all that stuff, which is good. Morales, though, he just might be just really special, right? Like, he's one of those guys when you look at him, you're just like, wow, this dude, but he's young. He's like 23, 24. He's got great boxing. The jab is awesome. His jab is really, really good. Takedowns are solid. But this is one of those fights where I think you're going to see how good Morales is. Like, because Max Griffin, he's not a chump. You know what I mean? I think this is going to be a good fight. I think for DFS, this is a good fight to target here. You know what I mean? 7,200 for a guy like Max, who I think, is tough, and, he's no slouch against a guy like Morales who, can knock your lights out. For me in DFS, you need some dogs. I'm definitely going to have exposure to both fighters because 7,200 Max, I think if he did find a way to get a win, I think he scores really well. So, and I think Morales is going to come forward. The only thing is, I feel like for me, I would personally have Brito and Bonfim in the 9K range ahead of Morales. But, that's just me ranking them out. It's not that I think, he's a better fighter. It's just more how I rank them for DFS. I think Brito for me would definitely be 1. After that, Bonfim 2, Morales 3. But yeah, I mean, this is a good fight to target. I'm going to be overweight on, probably Max Griffin just because, again, dogs. And I think there's a finish here. So either way, I think whoever wins does finish. I'll probably take Morales to finish, but for DFS, I'm going to have more Griffin probably, just how it shakes out.
Yeah, makes sense. I really like Morales as a prospect coming up here. Big power. Even if you go back, he's undefeated, right? Yeah, I think he's 13, 14-0 in his pro career. Even if you go back to the pre-UFC days, it's a lot of finishes, a lot of knockouts for Morales. I think he's a level above Max Griffin here. But your thoughts on Morales and Griffin, Drew?
Yeah, it's a good fight to target. I actually do lean Griffin a bit as a dog. I think he's probably one of the best dogs you can target. At least feel comfortable with actually finishing and actually having some upside at 7,200. But for Morales, I agree with JSU. I think he's the lowest ranked for me in the 9K range. I got him at 30% owned, and I have Max Griffin at 21% owned. So he is going to be, moderately owned, I guess, as a dog. But like I said, I think you got to play some dogs. Griffin probably has the best chance of actually winning the fight. They give him pretty good respect for a potential KO, about 10% inside round 1, which is pretty good for all the dogs. Morales will be in the player pool, but he's definitely going to be a notch below even Guram for me, to be honest. But like Brito and Bonfim would be 1, 2. And then, like I said, I think Griffin is just a good dog to target. It's not to say he's going to win, but I think all things considered, ownership wise and his KO number, his Vegas line, 7,200 fits some really nice builds. And he's not going to be overowned with that number.
I feel like this is kind of similar to the Santos Onama fight from last week in a way, where Onama was just a good dog. He was a big dog, but he was a good fighter. Like, everyone thought he was a good fighter. They just saw what happened against Nate Land, where they thought Santos was going to do the same thing. But like, he had finishing ability. He ends up finishing Santos. By the way, did pick it on the sheet. KO inside the distance for David Onama. Was the only one that picked that. But just throw that to the side. So to me, this is kind of similar, where out of the whole card, I feel like this is that one fight where the dog at least I think has a path to get it done here. Not to say the better fighter, but you never know what happens. He could catch them. Guys make mistakes all the time. And, I think it's kind of similar to that from a DFS perspective.
Yeah, Jason Graham, Griffin was pissed UFC feeding him to this guy. So I'm friends with a couple of the UFC Denver guys out here who are mostly kind of veterans. And yeah, once you lose a couple fights, so you kind of build up a name a little bit, and then if you lose a couple fights, it's tough because basically the UFC offers you the up and comers, right, to try to like springboard off your name a little bit. So yeah, I get it from Max Griffin. That's just kind of how the fight game works. Let's keep it moving to the last two fights on the card. Next one, essentially a coin flip. I think the only coin flip on the card is Ismagulov and Grant Dawson. Dawson, pretty interesting. He's had a bunch of submission wins, has scored pretty well in most of them. 8K fighter versus 8,200 Ismagulov here, who has scored much less well in his win. So, yeah, I'm interested to hear where ownership breaks down. But first, let's go over to you, JSU. Who do you got here between Ismagulov and Garrett Dawson?
Yeah, whenever I watch Grant Dawson fight, it always makes me nervous, even when I bet him or take him, because his paths are clear, but he is very hittable. We've seen him get knocked down. Madsen knocked him down once, but he's once he gets those takedowns, he gets you to the ground. He can finish you. He can submit you. Clearly, he's got a lot of sub finishes here, and finishes like in the third round. So he can out durability you or whatever, out cardio you, and get it to where it's his game. My thing though is I just think Ismagulov might just be a tick better than him, and I feel like since Grant has been knocked down, he is hittable. I think Demir is better in that category. I think that's where he could take advantage. From a DFS perspective, though, I do feel like if Demir wins, he could still win and not score that great. But at the same time, he's 8,200. So he's 8,200. Grant's like 8K, and Grant is clear. If he gets takedowns, he gets control time, he's going to score well in a win. And, Demir in a win, could he score well? Yes, but he could also have, a bad one. So for me, I think Grant makes more sense as a DFS play just because of the takedown upside at 8K. If he wins, DC, I feel like it's going to be tough for him not to be on that winner, because I don't see how he wins, and he's not like getting takedowns and by inside the distance anyways. Maybe by decision he could not get there, but if he wins inside the distance, I don't know how he's not on the winner.
Yeah, sometimes I talk about like on the coin flip women's fights, you almost have to win a parlay to get it right for DFS, where they've got to win the fight and they've got to score well. Whereas this one with Dawson, I almost feel like you just got to get one half of it, because I think if he wins, Dawson is going to score well, right? So it's a little bit of a different scenario there. I do like Dawson for DFS. I'm not confident that he's going to win. I'm just confident that if he does, he is going to score well. So, yeah, give me Dawson for DFS. Drew, what do you have for ownership between these guys, and what's your pick for the fight?
Yeah, I got Demir at about 17% and Dawson at 29%. So Dawson, a pretty high favorite, I guess, from a DFS perspective for guys to plug in at 8K. And I think it's all with the inside the distance number. So obviously the submission number looks pretty good. And to your point, like, he can definitely rack up some points. I think both are fine. From an ownership perspective, Demir is the guy that I would probably be a last click in. You would get a pretty distinct leverage spot against the Dawson clickers at 8K if they're just looking at the money line being pretty close, and then inside the distance gives Dawson a pretty big advantage. But I think if he's going to come in sub 20%, Demir, I would want to probably match the field at 20%. But then for Dawson, I have a tough time getting to the field at 30%. I think I said 29%, but we'll just round it up to 30. I see both of these guys probably being at like 20% owned for me. So I'm not sure I really have a pick for either. It just seems like a pretty big discrepancy in ownership for a fighter that's, like you said, it's a coin flip. It's just a matter of what fits lineup construction at 8K. The extra $200 makes a big difference. Some guys have 8,100 left. They can only click Dawson. So I think for me, it's just going to be matching the field, 20%, matching the field on Demir and under the field on Dawson, about 20% each.
That's the big thing with Demir too. Like, he just doesn't have, like, he's not a finisher. Like, one guy, like, even though I think Demir wins this fight, like, that's the problem that's killing me for DFS is I'm leaning towards the Demir side in a decision, but he's not a finisher. So the upside in the score, where I know Grant, if I'm wrong and he finishes, it's just the upside's going to be way bigger, I think, for him. So that's the problem for DFS as opposed to, capping this fight or betting this fight. Like, it's just different. But yeah, it's a tough one to peg, I think.
For sure. That's Dawson and Ismagulov. Let's get to the main event. Before we do, just another reminder, hit the like button if you haven't done so far. It does really help us out. Helps us bring you guys the show free of charge each and every Friday. So please do hit that like button. And if you want to join us over at Ron Peter Sports, as JSU mentioned earlier, we do have a promo code running right now, THIRD33. That's 3RD33. We'll get you 33% off your first monthly or weekly payment. All right, let's get to the main event. Sean Strickland -155 over Abbas Magomedov. We'll throw it back to you, JSU. What do you see between these two fighters?
Yeah, I feel like I just watched Sean Strickland fight. I know it was kind of recent, actually. It was in January. But Sean Strickland he's the same thing every single fight, right? He's boxing, jab, walk forward. He's not like super powerful, but the volume's always there. 6 significant strikes per minute, and he's just nonstop, moves forward, pressure in your face. And he's also got really good defense as well. So like everything sets up where he forces fighters into a fight that's his fight. Like that's what it is. And it's not like he's like putting people out either, really, for the most part, especially recently. It's just decision wins where he racks up the strikes and just out volumes you. And that's what he wants here. Whereas I think Abus, he's the more powerful striker. Good job like countering. I think he's the one that has the upside for a finish here. He also has a little bit of wrestling too. If somehow he can get Sean down and keep him down, then that's big for him for sure. But at least he's got to like try and disrupt them, try and get a takedown. You just don't want to spar with Sean Strickland because then he's just gonna outpace you. That's what he does. So I think Abus tries to get a finish. He is someone who we've seen do it, and he's got the power to finish dudes. I think for DFS, 7,700 for a guy with the finishing upside over Strickland, I'm going to lean. And so I'm going to be heavier on the Magomedov side at 7,700. I'll pick him to win here against Sean Strickland.
I like it. Drew, this is interesting. JC brought up interesting points with Strickland. He does a lot of volume, which in a 5-round fight, right? That's just 2 extra rounds to do the volume, and you can get there. Strickland could get there just on, he wouldn't need the takedowns or necessarily a finish. You could land 200 strikes in this fight over 5 rounds. So I think both these fighters are interesting. I don't think you have to go to this fight. Curious where ownership breaks down and where you sit on Magomedov and Strickland.
Yeah, I got Magomedov a good bit higher owned than Strickland here.
Interesting.
And yeah, I think it's because of a 5-round fight. Projections, grade out pretty decent for 7,700 fighter. And the inside the distance number, even though it's a 5-round fight, actually gives an edge to Magomedov. So I think that's probably the reason why I got 45% for Magomedov and I got 35% for Strickland. So about a 10% difference there. And again, it's early. We can run it again tonight or tomorrow morning, and some of those might update. But Strickland grades out pretty well, and I'm kind of there with you on Magomedov. Like the more I look at it, I think he looks pretty versatile. The money line number obviously thinks Strickland's going to do it, but like when I look through a round by round perspective, they like Magomedov in every single round over Strickland, which is interesting. So it's really just a matter of pure fantasy points from Strickland if he can do it through the 5 rounds that you said. He is going to be higher owned. So for me, it would be Strickland has a slight advantage, I guess, from an ownership perspective. But I do like Magomedov in this fight a good bit. It's just 45% is a lot if it is going to be on the feet and just throwing punches for 5 rounds back and forth. So I'm kind of torn. I think the ownership leans me into Strickland. 8,500 is tough. You really got to project them out well. But I think Magomedov is going to be my pick. I like the numbers.
All right. Good to hear. And that'll do it for this fight and this show. All 12 fights broken down. Good luck to everybody in their lineups tomorrow. We appreciate you tuning in. Hit the like button on your way out if you haven't done so. We will be back next week, same time, same place. We will see you then. For JSU, for Red Kachik, I'm DC, and we're out of here.